Thank you. Start by sharing my screen and good evening, everyone. And thank you, Mr. Sujit, for having me here today. It's a pleasure to see you all on this. I would like to say a warm evening, but wherever I am happens to be a
Hello?
pretty.
In in cancel result.
See my screen, right?
Yes, clear, ma'am. Not yet, not yet. Sorry. Yes.
So can you see my screen now?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay. So maybe should I stop sharing and then reshare once again?
Yes, ma'am.
So is
Yes.
it fine now?
Yes.
Okay. So good evening once again. And I will be starting the session with a question that I have been asking across multiple rooms, both online and offline, across the past 3.5 years. So that question happens to be if you all can recognize the face that you see on the screen. You should be, because this face happens to be that of one of my favorite actors ever. I'm pretty sure most of you recognize him as well. Some of you might know him as Doctor Strange. Some of you might recognize his amazing work as Sherlock Holmes. Others might just know him as Benedict Cumberbatch, one of the handsome men to ever walk the face of Earth, or at least that's what I feel. Ben did this yet another amazing project called The Imitation Game. This is a movie set during the World War times, World War II to be precise. This was a time when the Nazis, they were having an upper hand for a lot many reasons. They were clearly winning, they were clearly overwhelming everyone else for too many reasons, but one of the key reasons was that they had this great encryption machine called Enigma. Today, when you and I add a new contact to our WhatsApp, the first message that pops up on the WhatsApp screen tells us that now all messages we share with this person are going to be encrypted end to end. Encryption has become such an economical, such an accessible technology in 2026 or a few years before. But back in the World War days, 6, 7 decades ago, encryption was costly. It was reserved for military communications, and the Germans had figured it out, and there was no one to beat them. It is at this juncture that an amazing mathematical nerd and genius called Alan Turing walks into the English war scene. He goes on to break the code of Enigma along with his colleagues and his team. This movie, The Imitation Game, talks all about his feat, of his journey, of how he went about doing that, and also the injustices meted out to him back in those days and such. Today, on this evening, we are gathered to talk about this brand new technology called AI, or specifically Gen AI. Why exactly am I talking about old movies, reminiscing about my favorite actor and about a genius who lived 6, 7 decades ago? What exactly has he to do with ChatGPT and all of its shiny, fancy versions that we have at the moment? There definitely is a connection. And the simple connection is that this person, this human, Alan Turing, was not just a mathematical genius. He is also considered as one of the founding fathers of artificial intelligence. And I'm pretty sure maybe you have not heard of the full name, but Turing's laws is something that comes up pretty often anytime you talk with AI. So I just want to drive home the fact that AI is not something new. The technology, the terminology has existed for decades. Just that AI took a new avatar 3 plus years ago, and it is this new avatar that brought AI closer to us, closer to our homes, because now the so called layman, you and I, can enjoy the technology, can appreciate it, and also can use it for our everyday requirements. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? That's exactly the conversation that we will be having in the next 40 minutes or so. Thanks to ChatGPT and OpenAI, our worlds changed forever in November 2022. There is definitely no denying that. We can close our eyes and presume the world is dark, but it is not the case anymore, because in every aspect, every fabric of our lives, we have seen that AI has changed the way we do things, changed the way we anticipate things, and it has disrupted so many technologies before it. And if not anything, it is definitely disrupting the job market. So what would the job market look like? What would be the kind of jobs that would be available to our next gen in the next 10 years is definitely a pretty interesting guess game that we have at the moment. Now, imagine when ChatGPT was introduced for the first time, a friend comes and tells you about this amazing tool, a better version of Google, where you can just talk to the tool like you would talk to a friend or an assistant, and then the tool seems to have answers for pretty much anything you ask. You want to know the ingredients of your favorite Italian sauce, you want to know what ingredients can be replaced with what, all of that in a conversational tone. Or if you have very complex astrophysics questions, all of that gets answered. From one end to the other end of knowledge, ChatGPT seemed to have answers for everything. This is kind of akin to what we experience when we walk into a social gathering, where most often you would meet this one human who seems to know everything, who seems to have answers for everything. In the first 5-10 minutes you're walked, you're like, okay, this is great. How can one person be so knowledgeable, so confident, and a bit boisterous and loud as well? And you are impressed by this person in the first 5 minutes or so. But as time goes by, as more and more questions get posed, as more and more answers start spilling out of their mouth, somewhere along the line you realize, okay, maybe they really do not know the answer to everything. They are great at pretending to know all the answers, which sometimes is a bad thing, because a person who claims to know everything most often is wrong than right. And that is what we discovered with AI. And we were all welcomed into this world of AI errors, AI hallucinations, and whatnot. Now, ChatGPT is old news. There has been so many versions beyond the 3.0 that we met earlier. And then we started having reasoning models, especially with DeepSeek coming from mainland China, and all the dust that it swiveled up in its kind of journey to usurp the attention that ChatGPT and the Silicon Valley and the US was getting in terms of Gen AI. But when the dust settled down, we noticed that the basic flaws of ChatGPT were carried forward into these reasoning models as well. And what we are talking about now, the agentic AI that has enthralled us to no end in the past few months, that is not exactly immune to all the fallacies of ChatGPT as well. Which brings us to the important question of, where is it that AI falls short? Right from the first version of ChatGPT to all of its cousins, its friends, its enemies, to the recent versions of agentic AI, and sometimes even with autonomous AI, some basic flaws are going to exist. Unless we change these flaws, we might never be able to use the technology appropriately. AI hallucinates. Even agentic AI that claims to reduce hallucinations by 30 to 40 percentage, they still hallucinate. None of these models promises 0% hallucinations, which means walking into this AI world, we should acknowledge that hallucinations are going to exist, and we just have to learn to coexist alongside these hallucinations. And why exactly does this happen? Why does ChatGPT, or why do these agentic AI models, which are so intelligent, which are capable enough to develop into the next step autonomous models, which might not require any human interventions, such amazingly built models, why do they still hallucinate? Because at the base, these are all still fall on the same template of large language models. And LLMs, though they have language in their name, they do not understand language. They don't understand the question you pose to them. They don't understand the answer they are throwing at you. They are just great probability models, no matter if they are working with words, no matter if they are working with pixels, no matter if they are working with sound. They are just working as probability models, not creativity in the human sense, not building up from scratch in how we learn to do it, but rather putting together things just based on probability. And When we rely exclusively on probability to get things done, then there are going to be disappointments, and that is exactly what we face with these AI tools. Now imagine we're all sitting in the same classroom face to face and not just staring at the screen like morons that we usually are when we do any of these virtual sessions. And I ask each of you to draw out your notebook, a pen or pencil, and then start drawing everything you see on the screen. And you do exactly that. And maybe I give you a time of 60 seconds or 1 minute to do that. And I have done this exercise across multiple institutions, audiences ranging from practicing doctors to architects within India, beyond India as well. And in most of the cases, when you are asked to draw a house, this is what a house looks like. Architects, I'm not even kidding you, proper architects and interior designers have drawn a house that looks like this because I hardly gave them 60 seconds. They couldn't really think much, and they just had to lean back on their learned bias on what they learned in their kindergarten to bring out a house that has no correlation to their present reality whatsoever. Now, this is bias. This exists in all things that we create. All the images, the pictures, the movies, the way you align politically, the way you make friends, the way you pick your partners, the countries that you love, everywhere you are biased. You believe you are making choices out of free will, but oftentimes free will is just a joke because free will is heavily built up on these bricks of biases that we have had ever since our childhood. Some, or rather most of them, force fed to us even when we do not realize what they are. Now, bias is always problematic. And when you have this highly biased information thrown into something as naive as generative AI, which does not have a reference to the real world, which does not even know what bias means, the results could be problematic. A case in point being these images in the picture here. Now, these images were created by Midjourney, I presume, in the very early days of Midjourney when it was pretty popular. It felt like magic because you can just walk in, give a prompt, and the tool will give you a nice composite image. Great. This meant none of us have to learn Photoshop anymore. But after being warped, when we took a breath, when we took a pause, I looked at the images once again, and assuming we're all sitting somewhere in the US, even then, look at the left top picture. Even in a US scenario, do you think most prisoners look like that? Or to reframe my question, are most prisoners black in the US? Let's say you're walking along the streets of New York, you tip your toe across a stone, you maybe slip, skid, and you have a graze across your knee. You walk into a hospital. Do you think you would encounter a nurse who looks like this? Or how many times would you encounter a nurse who looks like that? The more important question, why should a nurse look a certain way and why should a cleaner look something completely different, even though the user did not ask for a nurse or a cleaner of a specific ethnicity or with specific attributes? This bias is problematic, and this bias does not just exist in images, it exists in all the information that you're trying to retrieve across these AI tools. In terms of research, when you ask any question, research question where you want answers from literature, most of your answers are coming from open access literature because that is what is accessible, and open access literature has its own problems because it is heavily compromised literature because of the lack of robust peer review in most of the cases, because of greedy publishers where money is the focus and research rigor is just thrown out of the window most of the times. When it comes to teaching, again, these tools are just going to reinvent the major narrative. As a teacher, do you want to just stick to one single narrative, or do you want to have diverse perspectives that actually bring in the ground reality to your students? And this is made worse when you are a student. At least as a researcher, as a teacher, you might have some experience in discerning what is right and what is biased. But as a student, someone who's naive to the particular field of study, you might not even be able to recognize the bias that exists in the information that you get. And for that reason, it is important always to step away from AI tools, find original sources, dig deeper, find contradictory sources actually, and only then build your case for studying it and everything else as well. It is said that when the television was introduced for the first time, it took a good 4 5 decades for the television to reach 90% of the urban households. But with AI, it hardly took 1 year to reach a comparative penetrance in the urban households, beyond urban households as well. And speed is sometimes problematic with technology, because when something develops too fast, we don't have the time to take a pause and look at its downfalls, look at the limitations. It's like running a race with Usain Bolt. Yes, it is a pleasure to watch this guy run so fast with nobody able to catch him. I'm not talking about the Bolt today who says he has knee pain, who cannot climb upstairs. So hard to even imagine this guy like that who could just steer past the wind and you cannot even catch this guy running. So it's nice to sit and watch and be amazed at wow how fast all of this is going. But what are we exactly missing? What is it that we are missing? We are missing a lot of conversations around legality, ethics, environmental impact, and more importantly, the impact on learning and human knowledge development as well. One thing that could ground us, make us understand, sit back, come back into our bodies, and actually look at AI positively is to understand that AI will always remain the mirror, or it's a wild wish that AI should remain the mirror and not exactly the magic wand that it is sometimes made to be, because that would turn out to be pretty disastrous. So, at the end of the day, even today, prompt engineering is something very important. And if you can work on your prompts, if you can be open about your prompts, if you can stop searching for that perfect prompt. This is one often asked question across these sessions on AI, where people are looking for prompts. So, can I have the perfect prompt to do this task? Can I have the perfect prompt to create my lesson plans, or the perfect prompt to write an assignment or do an assessment, whatnot? I would say don't look for the perfect prompt, but rather look at this entire process of prompt engineering, entire process of interacting with AI as an iterative process, just like you are talking to a young assistant. You set them on a task, they go, they try their best, they bring back with the results. That's exactly not the time to start losing your mind or start shouting, or worse, start trusting them 100% and then just take the results and go start presenting it to a room full of strangers who would embarrass you to no end because your talk is full of flaws. So look at them as assistants, curious, keen on helping you, but they don't understand the big picture and they don't understand your style of delivering things, not all dimensions of the perspective as well. So talk to these tools like you would talk to an assistant. Go back and forth. There is no perfect prompt. The only tip you would need to write a good prompt is your prompt has to be action oriented. It cannot be full of adjectives. You cannot just look at a young child, hand them over a notebook and a set of color pencils and say, go draw the perfect tree. That is, when you really think about it, that is insane, because that child at that age does not understand what a perfect tree is. What do you mean by perfect? Are you talking about the right dimensions for a tree? Are you talking about the right colors for a tree? What on earth perfect exactly means for such a young child? But were you to tell the child that, okay, when you want to draw something, maybe look at a picture of what it looks like, or just look outside your window, look at a tree, and then try to replicate the structure that you see. Maybe use the right colors, maybe don't color outside the lines. Now, this is much more useful instructions. This is exactly how you should be talking to these AI tools as well. If you want to get the best out of them, guide them, let the prompts be these flags that guide these AI tools across this journey from point A to point B. Point A being your question, layered, complex, whatever you require, and point B being the output that you look for. So AI, no matter if we are talking about AI for research or teaching for or for learning or for general use as well, this entire AI ecosystem is pretty complex. It has had several layers deep, and we humans do not understand all parts of the evolution that is going on across these layers. So it is important to be curious, but then it is all the more important to be a bit cautious in how we let AI shape the world around us as well. So, when we have to talk about AI for research, Tools exist for every single use case across your scientific writing and publishing process. Right from tools that help you with identifying the right research questions like Chat Academia, or tools that help you with finding literature quickly and directionally like litmaps, or tools that help you extract information from across hundreds of papers in the form of a neat tabular column like size space, elicit, answer this, or tools that work with you as co-writers, helping you frame the right outline for your paper, helping you find literature quickly, helping you manage your references, all within the interface of MS Word or your Google Docs or LaTeX overlay, for instance, like PaperPal, for instance. Then there are tools that help you do your presentations quickly. You can feed in your input and your presentation comes out 10 decks, 20 slides per deck in less than 20, 30 seconds. Tools like Gamma, for instance. And then tools like the Typeset IO journal formatter, which is now fed into SciSpace Agentic AI, where you can format your manuscripts quickly. You can get mock peer reviews from tools like Paper Wizard, for instance. So all across the process, there are legitimate tools. But what can I do? What should I not be doing? You can use these tools to assist you in finding literature quickly, to extract information quickly, to decide what papers have the most information for you to be actually reading the full text, for instance, or taking help from these papers to improve your language, proofread your manuscript to a certain extent, not make global changes exactly, to help you create images like BioRender, for instance, or Mind the Graph or eDraw Max. Great tools out there to help you with these processes, with your graphical abstracts, with your illustrations inside your text, or tools like Julius for your statistical analysis. Two things to remember. First, don't let AI add anything to your writing canvas. Take help outside the canvas, but when it comes to the actual writing process, you should still write, not let AI do your writing. The second important thing to remember are the declarations that you have to add at the end of any scientific document when you use AI tools. Because right now, there are no hard and fast rules about the use of AI. We are all just playing by the ear, taking it one step at a time. And what will make this conversation really worthwhile having is for the users to be transparent. You used an AI for your statistical analysis. It could be Insight 7, it could be Julius AI. Just declare that you use this tool for this purpose, and then you verified the output as a human author before including the data or including the picture or the table or the analysis results into your manuscript, and then you let the editors and the peer reviewers decide if it is okay to actually be doing that. Now, when it comes to using AI tools as a teacher, it gets a bit more tricky. It is not just a case of having a set of tools, because there are tools available right from creating your lesson plans, tools like Edu8, for instance, or there are tools that can make your classes more interactive like Mentimeter, or you can try out AI tools that can take care of your assessments and evaluations, like the tools offered by Eclavia, or something as simple as quizzes that can help you with your formative assessments and evaluations. But when it comes to introducing AI into teaching, the ethical complexities are run much, much deeper. And it is not a simple case of having an AI tool, because it is not an individual who gets impacted by the use of AI. It's an entire classroom, or if we think in our right minds, it's an entire generation that would face the backlash if something goes wrong with introducing this technology too early without much thought. So the thought process has to be much deeper. We have to really take a breath and pause, and only introduce AI tools into the teaching learning processes when we are sure. And one leaf that we can draw out of historical protests against technology is this protest that happened somewhere in 1985, 86 or so, when mathematical teachers to the roads protesting against a brand new technology. Can you guess what the technology was? It is something we cannot live without at this moment. It's the simple introduction of calculators. And the message that we are learning from them is that they did not exactly protest against the use of calculators. They did not say, go burn down factories that were creating or manufacturing calculators. All they asked was that calculators stay away from the primary classrooms when the students were still learning their addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Because if we introduce calculators too early into the mathematical learning process, they are going to miss out big time on understanding the basics of mathematics. We could do the same. Great to have AI tools, nice to actually learn them, but not too early, not before the students and scholars have actually learned to write their first proposals or their first manuscripts without having to lean on AI. Once they have learned the process, once they are confident enough that they can survive without AI tools, that ironically is the right time for them to be exploring and using AI tools as well. And unlike the other literacies that we are talking about, when we talk about literacy, it's just a matter of learning something, learning a language, and then being able to use the language. But when we talk about AI literacy, it is not just a laundry list of having AI tools, do's and do nots, but it is also the process where you should think beyond today's usage. You should think on the impact that this might have on the students and society as a whole. At least right now, the sentiment is leaning more towards augmentation and less about automation of classrooms. When we talk about introducing AI into the classrooms, it's not replacing human teachers, but we want those human teachers who are already overburdened with teaching, research, and administrative duties to have tools at their disposal so that they have much more time to do exactly what they are supposed to do, mentor and mold these young minds that are placed in their care for most part of a day. So that's how we would have to approach AI when it comes to teaching, because AI has too many complications in teaching. Now there is this a much deeper hole that we'll have to explore, because can students use AI? We have actually crossed that bridge a long time ago, because students, they are not asking anyone's permission to use AI. Children as young as those who have crossed just the kindergarten stage, they know they can get all their answers just on WhatsApp. They are already adept at using technology. They were born with smartphones in their hands, and they can simply ask questions into the AI component of WhatsApp, and they have their answers right there. They don't even have to leave WhatsApp. They have everything they need just on one single platform. And this is where restricting technology is definitely not going to help us. Policing is not the way forward, because how much of policing can you do as an individual or even as a collective? So this is where conversations become important. And already AI has shocked the hell out of teachers. AI like Einstein AI, though they claim that they made this public announcement, public slogan for their tool by mistake, it is still scary. So most across North America, the learning interface for students happens to be something called a Canvas. So this is like the CRM where you can log in. So like your Google Classroom, where you can log in, where you can, teachers can kind of monitor how well you are taking these classes. Your assessments are there, everything exists in one place. Now, this company behind Einstein AI decided it was a smart move to go ahead and create an AI that can actually manipulate the Canvas interface. It can attend classes just like a student. It will take up the assessment. It will take up questions that comes along the classes. Essentially, it becomes a proxy student. And just imagine the amount of popularity that this tool would have got. And if left handshake, this tool could cause havoc on the entire education system that has been built over decades. Now, this is where conversation becomes important. So, just ask your students, gather your students, or if you're a student yourself, let me be your proxy teacher for the day and ask you this question. Now, imagine you decide you want to be fit and you go join a gym, you pay money for joining the gym. And what is exactly the goal for you to go to the gym? There are weights, and what do? You essentially move these weights from one place to the other. Say you have a dumbbell, you essentially pull up the dumbbell, do your shoulder presses, and so on. So, what exactly is the goal? Is it to move these gym equipments? Or is it for you to really go through that painful process of throwing in your muscular labor to move these instruments? If you believe that the first case is the goal, where just moving these instruments is the goal, I can simply help you, lend you a forklift. You just take the forklift, go keep moving the dumbbells, keep moving those weights from one place to the other, and your goal is achieved. What did you gain as a human? Zero. But if you your goal is to go through the predictive struggle to not just move weights. Moving weights is the process. The end product you're looking for is to actually build muscles, to strength train, to keep your hormones in check, to make sure that you're not dying of cardiac arrest at 40. Then you will go through the productive struggle of actually working with those weights and lifting things up and down. This is the same case with AI. Yes, AI tools exist. AI tools are those forklifts. They are going to make your lives pretty easier. But do you want your life easier, or do you want to learn and develop skill sets that are going to sustain you for the rest of your lives when you are chucked out of your parents' house and the parents' basements that you are? So these questions and many more of these questions is what is important to drill in the right perspective about using AI tools. Forklifts, great tools, but where manual labor can be reduced, where the goal is not to develop muscles but to get the job done. Yes, AI is great, forklifts are great. But when the goal is to actually build myself physically, I will have to go through the trouble. I will have to go through the hard process. When the goal is to develop myself mentally or develop a knowledge system or develop a skill, I have to go through the productive struggle of actually sitting down and reading those hundreds of articles, actually sitting down to write that 5-page assignment without taking help from any of the other AI tools, actually knowing how to create a PPT on those days when AI might just let me down, because that is what learning is all about. And also, remember, you are someone who still does not know the right answer. As a teacher, when I use AI, I know what the output has to be. I'm using AI just because I don't have the time to work around my color combinations, aesthetics, and font sizes on my PowerPoint slides. But as a student, when you are asked to do a presentation, when you have no idea what the topic is all about, when you just walk into an AI tool like Gamma, given a prompt, and then just get the slides out of the tool and walk onto that stage, what amount of confidence do you think you will actually hold? Because when I have a knowledge about the subject, I know a lot of subtext, I know a lot of stories. And anytime I stammer there with my prepared lesson, I know how to pivot, I know how to take it up from a different path and still continue and finish the presentation, which you might not be able to if you just think about it unilaterally. One presentation ready made for you and just one set of notes for you to memorize. Very bad idea. And LLMs, they are never scored for accuracy. So they are this very mechanical, semantically and syntactically correct machines. They give you information that sounds nearly accurate, but that is not always nuanced. There are so many layers to information, so many layers to understanding language and perspectives from different authors. That's exactly what will miss in terms of using these AI tools. And the same logic applies to teachers as well when you are deciding on AI tools for your classrooms, because AI will have these flaws. And if you are to reduce at least a good amount of these flaws, what is called the last mile training on these LLMs, it has to happen in house. You buy an LLM, make it local, do not throw it on the server to protect your student data, protect your teacher data, and then do the last mile training all by yourself as well. And going back to my initial story of how this person who has answers to every question you have usually does not always have the right questions. And the problem with such people is that they don't even know that they are wrong. They don't even know that they are being annoying. That is the beauty of being an annoying person. Everyone in the room knows that you are annoying except for yourself, and that's exactly what happens with these AI tools. It's not a simple case of just adding a prompt, asking the tool to give me accurate information, give me genuine information, double check your information, triple check your information. When the tool does not understand or has no means whatsoever inbuilt into it to differentiate between accurate and inaccurate information, what is true, what is false, what is biased, and what is not biased. No amount of prompt engineering is going to solve this problem. And that is why, despite all these advances, reading, researching for yourself, and actually sitting down to think and write is important, because knowledge is not just having a whole bunch of data. Remember, we are one of the species that we have this beautiful ability called metacognition, where you can have thoughts about your thoughts, and we develop knowledge systems through what is called embodied knowledge, where we don't just learn from what others give us, we learn from the knowledge, the data, we learn from our own experiences, interactions with the world. We also observe how our fellow humans, fellow creatures, fellow components in the universe interact with each other, and that's how we learn, which is not how AI learns. So I wouldn't really trust my $1 million presentation to an AI, at least not now. And every single stage, there are a lot of ethical qualms that has to be addressed before you use AI. It could be in research, teaching, or in learning processes as well. So one question that I would urge you to ask yourself anytime you feel like using an AI tool to circumvent a tedious process is not if an AI can do it. One of the boring questions that we come across in the past 3.5 years is, for every mundane task, we need an AI tool. Can an AI do this? Can an AI do that? That is the wrong question to ask. Do not ask if an AI can do it. Ask what you will lose if you let an AI do it. If I let AI do the reading for me, I would never strengthen my vocabulary. I would never have these multiple stories and disasters that I can recollect, I can laugh about now from my research days, for instance. And if I never learn to write, if I never learn the skill sets that are set as outcomes for one of my courses, how exactly am I to step into the world to take up my next job or whatnot? Applies for a researcher, applies for a teacher, applies for a student. Why as a teacher? Because as a teacher, if it is AI which decides what content will go into each of your classroom sessions, if it is going to give you ready-made content, now if you can do it, your students can do it 10x better. It's the hard truth, but that is the truth still, right? Because students, they are much more adept. They do amazing things with AI and technology. So why exactly do you think a student who walks into your classroom, looks at your slides that are beautifully created by Gamma with content that Gamma thinks is appropriate for the classroom, why exactly is this student respecting you or, or listening to you when they know that they can get this done by an AI, read it out by an AI, sometimes with a much better intonation than the human teacher who is standing in front of them in the classroom? So there is much more at stake here, personally, to each one of you as well. So be cautious is the goal. Now, a session on AI cannot end without talking about two of the vices that we have brought into this world thanks to AI tools. The first is this atrocious thing called content detectors. So, content detectors are money making machines for the companies that introduce them. But it's a huge pain for every other user who tries to use it, because AI content detectors, they are not accurate. Why? Because there is no clear distinction between human written content and AI written content, considering that AI, after all, learn to learn, write and read and process from humans. AI writing looks very keenly like what a human would write, or vice versa. For this reason, content detectors have actually made it pretty difficult for researchers and students alike to actually write content. Now, when I write, I'm not more than being worried about if it is interesting enough, if it is structured nicely, if it does not create a huge cognitive overload on my readers or on my listeners. I'm more worried about, am I using words like tapestry, nuance, and so on, because these words happen to be ChatGPT's favorite. And if I overuse these words, then my listener or my reader would think I used AI for creating this content. I'm more worried about how my content would be perceived in terms of usage of AI than actually worrying about the novelty and the readability or the accessibility of my content. This is problematic in research. This is also problematic in teaching and learning perspectives as well. Now, the next question is, okay, because these AI content detectors are such villains, they are just making our lives harder. So, can we turn to saviors like humanizing AI tools? Now, this is the next layer of complexity. What kind of demons have we created over the last 3 years? There were AI tools, and then we created AI content detectors to fool these we rather created AI content detectors to not be fooled by content created out of AI tools. And as if that were not enough, we created humanizers to kind of cheat on these AI content detectors. And now recently we have what are called as anti-humanizers, which boast to even find out content that was originally written by an AI tool and then rewritten or humanized by another AI tool. This being an AI tool in itself, trying to cheat one other AI tool called AI content detectors. Please don't ask me to repeat that. I'm as confused as you are in this context. So, no, humanizers are not the answers to AI content detectors. We will have to build systems that are robust enough in all of these contexts. Maybe it is time that we re examine if research papers are the way to document research impact. That time maybe is gone, and we have to revamp the entire system to rethink how we look at research impact, how we reward research impact as well. And then, in terms of teaching learning scenarios, maybe we cannot give the same 1,000 word assignments that we gave 3 years ago. It's time to rethink assignments. It's time to rethink evaluations. It's time to rethink how teachers and students interact in a classroom and what the role of a teacher is. Maybe they are not just there to deliver knowledge, they never were there to just stuff content one after the other into students. Maybe it's time to rethink their role as mentors, as someone who grooms these young students, rather than just throws at them a whole bunch of data and then evaluates them on their ability to just in kind of digest this data and throw it back at them in slightly not so pleasant ways. Now, there is this mythology, a Greek mythology, I believe, which talks about how humans inherited fire or how they discovered fire. There was a time when fire belonged only to the gods, or at least that's what the Greeks believed. And there was this young god called Prometheus who was very fond of humans. So, what he did was he brings fire up from the heavens, from the abode of the gods, down to the earth to humans, and it's believed this is how humans discovered fire. And for this, Prometheus was punished for eternity. I'm not sure how true this story is, but I'm pretty sure that when fire was discovered for the first time, not all humans were happy. Some humans, our own optimistic ancestors, would have looked at this blazing thing and thought, wow, now we can cook our food, we can keep ourselves warm, travel in the dark, protect ourselves against animals. But there would have definitely be this small cluster of pessimists who would have looked at fire and thought immediately, God, our lives are done. This thing can destroy everything that we have built over the years. It can destroy forests, it can destroy humans. Why are we even having this amongst us? But thanks to both these categories of our ancestors, it's because of the optimists that we have everything around us today. Every technology you see around you today is not possible without fire. But thanks to the pessimists, fire is a much safer thing today. Not that fire still does not burn down entire stretches of forests, or we have horrible fire accidents happening all the time, but we have tamed fire to an extent that it has become usable, and its uses have kind of outweighed the limitations or the dangers that it poses. I'm pretty sure you've all figured out where I'm going with this story right now. Today, it feels like we have a new fire amongst us, and that fire is none other than Gen AI. AI, Gen AI specifically, is scary on most days. You wake up and you are in a constant existential crisis because you do not know what the next year would look like with AI. We have never been in such a fast paced technological developmental stage, and we are all scared. But maybe, just maybe, if we give AI a chance with a lot of curiosity, but then with much heavier doses of caution and right policies in place, the right check dams in place, maybe AI could be a good thing to happen to us. Because just like with any other technology, the problem is never the technology. The problem is always how we tend to use the technology. Maybe look at the right direction and you don't have to fear so much. On that note, I'm Dr. Sowmiya, and it was a pleasure meeting you all on this session. And this is where you can reach me beyond the session as well. This QR code will take you to my LinkedIn page where I write a few times a week if I'm not traveling, if I'm not doing intense back to back sessions. I write about both AI tools for research as well as AI tools for teaching and learning as well. Not great with calls, but I'm great with WhatsApp. So you can always drop me a message if you have a question or if we could collaborate on a potential session and so on. And yes, Mr. Sujit mentioned, we also have a startup, which is essentially a small team of writers and editors, work majorly with medical, healthcare, pharmaceutical professionals to help you design, restructure your manuscripts better. So you can always write to us if you're looking for such requirements on the email ID. Even if I'm not around, someone from the team will pick it up. And recently this year, we had this attempt of bringing in at least some of our content into a YouTube channel. I have not been doing a great job at the moment, but we have, as of now, one of the best content out there is a 1 hour session split into 2 videos. It's on systematic literature reviews and meta-analysis, and maybe some of you might find it useful. I'll also share these links into the chat box so that you can have it with you. And in the meanwhile, if you have any questions, please, if you can unmute yourself, you can just um, unmute and go ahead with the questions. But then if you can't, you can always drop your questions into the chat box. I already see a set of questions in the chat box. I'm going to take it up in a few. Okay. Okay. So let me just scroll up. Okay, so I think my screen was got resolved.
It was only with one person.
Yeah. So is Gen AI fundamentally a tool that amplifies human intelligence, or does it risk replacing essential cognitive processes? Okay. So I don't like the please elaborate part, but the simple answer is I would say the second part is more true than the first part, right? So AI does not exactly, it does amplify human intelligence in certain respects, like in diagnosis, for instance, or in instances where you have to sift through quite large volumes of data for taking some critical decisions. In all those respects, yes, it kind of amplifies human intelligence. Once we have figured out how we can start trusting the tool, once we have figured out how to do away with the hallucinations, do away with the inaccuracies. But in all other respects, if we don't use these, especially all these general purpose Gen AI that is simply available to masses all across, I think it's more a case of where we would inadvertently let AI replace our cognitive abilities.
Any more questions?
Compare traditional teaching methods with Gen AI assisted teaching in terms of knowledge retention, skill development, and long term competency. This depends on the teacher, I would say, and also the capability of a student. Say, for instance, when you have differently able students in your classroom, maybe a traditional teacher might not have had the time or the energy to accommodate them within the classroom. This is one of the premises that these Gen AI companies are pushing forward when they want to enter into the teaching ecosystem, because they say now that it is possible to give personalized learning experiences to students, especially those who lag in cases of traditional learning setups, right? So it can help students retain knowledge better, because now knowledge can be presented in multimedia forms. Now everything has become multimedia. You see your everyday people trying to get across to their friends and family via Instagram reels. That's how crazy we have become with these multi dimensions to sharing stuff, and that might help in retaining knowledge better. Yeah, more visuals, less talking, less written content. And with skill development, again, what could only be imagined so far can be now made into a proper animation. The process can be made much more relatable, so maybe they learn the skills better as well. And long term competency is what you do with knowledge that comes out of these AI tools. Are you going to rely on AI to take away most of your skills? So, if, say, for instance, I'm an editor, if I were to rely on AI tools for my scientific manuscript editing process for 1 year straight, maybe by the end of the year, I would have really lost my touch with catching errors. So, one look at a document, I can quickly catch at least 10 to 15 errors in the first few seconds, because my eye and my brain is trained to actually do that. If I keep outsourcing it to AI, 1 year down the lane, whatever the AI says goes, because I have lost that competency to actually do my job, which I have done pretty efficiently before. Right? It's just like the case of remembering at least 20, 30 phone numbers just a few years back. Now I only know my number. If I get lost somewhere, I'm still wondering what I'll do, because I hardly have one or two secondary numbers on my mind, because I have this false safety network thinking that, okay, always have my phone, I always have these numbers in my hand, so I don't really put the effort to memorize. What happens when a time comes when my phone is lost, when I'm in the middle of nowhere and I have no way to get back home? That is truly one of my nightmares. So, should we allow this to happen with all our primary skills like simple research, simple writing, simple teaching, simple communication? Is the question you should be asking yourself to answer this question that you have put forth, Jayantila. Software developer roles, or what level it may be modified, or specific medical and engineering field softwares. So when it comes to software development, I think AI has definitely figured out code writing. As long as you have a human in the loop verifying these codes, should be fine for now. And when you have AI, especially when you have multiple AI tools writing and troubleshooting parallelly, then I guess they can do a mathematical functions is where these AI tools really shine. These repetitive jobs with clear instructions, I think AI does a much better job than humans here. It's when it comes to comprehension that AI fails. At what point does using AI shift from assistance to intellectual outsourcing? Any point where the core of the process is outsourced, then it is no longer assistance. When I'm writing a paper, AI can find literature for me, but I should be reading the literature. I should be collecting information. I should be paraphrasing, and I should be writing. As a teacher, AI can make the presentation for me, but then base notes should come from me because it is my presentation. As a student, AI can help me find these nice examples and suggestions on how I can make my assignment more interactive, more catchy. But if I let AI do the actual work for me, write the actual assignment, then it becomes outsourcing.
Can I ask one question from my side?
Yeah, Mr. Sajid.
Okay, just for out of curiosity, is it the time has come? Means no matter how much we preach that whether you should be using this very carefully, is it time that we should be restricting it to some sort of age restriction or something? Because it is so we are using it for almost everything. Means it is literally replacing Google. Means
Yeah.
for small things we are using AI. So, what's your take on this?
I think Google will be replaced. That is an eventuality. I don't think we can really prevent that. And when it comes to age restriction, I'm not sure if it can happen at a global level. It should We should think local. So these global implementations are not going to work, at least in the next few years. Let's think local. Let's think within our homes, with our kids. Let's think about ourselves. Let's think about our students in the classroom, our own educational setup, and so on. So we'll have to think of implementing restrictions from the ground upwards. We cannot always wait for the establishment to bring in rules or restrictions. Let's start small, build on it, and then create the appropriate regulations, is how I see it.
Thank you.
Not just in pharmaceutical or scientific literature, this biases and AI content built over AI content, right? In the first layer, AI was just reproducing human content and it was introducing small fallacies. Now, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the lane, AI will be trained on AI generated content. AI will rely more on AI generated content because there will not be any distinction between what is human generated, what is AI generated, what is true, what is not true. We are headed for pretty interesting times, is what I can say. Because even now, anytime you see a reel on Instagram, the first question that pops up is it real? When you see a beautiful landscape, when you see a beautiful flower or a bird, I have stopped admiring it. Before admiring something, my first question is it real? Is it really worth my admiration? So that's what I said. We are in a perpetual state of existential crisis. I don't like it, you don't like it, but that's where we are. And we just have to deal with it one problem at a time. Yeah. Will future experts be those who know the subject deeply or those who know how to ask the right questions? I think a bit of both. Because to ask the right questions, you must have the base level of subject knowledge. So, experts, at least semi experts, are those who are going to be asking the right questions and getting the best out of these AI tools, I believe.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. It was really a means eye-opening session. So it's very dangerous and also a very good. We can say both sides. We know about Gen AI. So hopefully we use it means more responsibly. That's the only take we can take from here. Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for taking out time and being part of this series. And I'm very sure that most of them would have benefited from your session. And thank you to the audience for being present throughout the session and asking some important questions. Anything from your side, ma'am? Otherwise, we will conclude for the session.
No, I am good. Just good luck to all of you with AI in your lives.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next session of Spectratix Knowledge Series. Thank you so much. Bye.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.